Joseph Dugan, and I am a physical therapist. So in high school, I was pretty naive and didn't have a whole lot of direction from home. So my guidance counselor in high school took me out of school and said, "You're going to college." And I told her to pick out a career. She said, "Doctor, lawyer." I said, "Too many years." I said, "I'll give you 4. She said, "I can get you through physical therapy. In 4 years, you can do 6 years of work." And I said, "That's what I'll do." So that was my only knowledge of the field prior to getting into it. When I knew I could get a job. So it's easy to get a job as a physical therapist. You can't outsource it. It's hands-on, and everybody gets old or has injuries. So it's pretty marketable. You have to like people. If you don't like people, you're in trouble. If you're afraid to touch people, you're in trouble. Most people are, surprisingly so. You need to want to be able to help people. If you're getting into it for the money, you probably should look elsewhere. You can make a good living, but it's not going to get you wealthy unless you manage it a bit differently than I have. It's a good profession, though. You get to help a lot of people. So at this point, you'll need an undergraduate degree and then a graduate degree. So it takes about 7 years, and you'll come out with a doctor of physical therapy, similar to a dentist or an optometrist. Schooling prior to graduate school, you'll need a basis in sciences, physics, calculus, math, that kind of thing, physiology, anatomy. I feel good every night. I usually have helped somebody, or at least attempted to do so. So there's that part of it. Yeah, most every night you can think that, yeah, I probably helped somebody today. And on a real direct means, it's not indirect. I mean, you're actually helping people function better, maybe have less pain, enjoy their family, continue a job, or anything that requires physical or even emotional improvement. I think motivating people to do something that they probably haven't done, which is why they're in the position that they're in. For example, people may have a bad back because of poor posture. Maybe they're too heavy. Their furniture needs changing ergonomically at work. It's a problem for them. And if they can't take a pill or have surgery, it's more difficult. It takes time, process, and often people that are in that position, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they're in that position because of a lack of discipline. That sounds kind of harsh, but that's often true. Don't get into it, no. Keep your grades up. It's difficult to get into graduate school. Make sure that your sciences are all set. Prior to applying for graduate school as an undergraduate, make sure that you're satisfying requirements. It's terrible to get through your undergraduate and want to become a physical therapist and you don't have the requisite prerequisites to get in. And so I would just be aware of that. And also make sure you want to get into the field. Make sure that you're volunteering at different hospitals or different kinds of physical therapy. You can get into all kinds of geriatrics, pediatrics, sports, neurological, what have you, and try to look at the various avenues of service. You can also get into sports. I have friends that have done the Boston Red Sox, Minnesota Twins. They've been trainers and physical therapists for Arizona Wildcats or different teams. I mean, every team now has 1 or 2 physical therapists and under them a number of trainers. So it's a varied field, but you ought to know what you're getting into prior to putting all that time, energy, and money into it. Okay, so I usually get to work by 6:45 or 7. I'm there till 5 or 5:30, usually 6. I see patients hourly. I don't often take a lunch other than Wednesdays. And I see a varied caseload of orthopedics, maybe hip replacements or knee replacements, or today I saw impingement for shoulders, bad back, dislocated hip, bad ankle, that kind of thing. I do a lot of orthopedic work. There's a fair amount of note-taking just to satisfy insurances. That part I don't like, but it's necessary for billing especially. Insurances want to see that thing. And if there happens to be a lawsuit, you may end up in court, either as a witness for a surgeon that maybe a surgery went bad, or a patient who is suing their employer for you sitting in a bad chair. About 60. That includes paperwork and running a business. So in physical therapy, you can work in a hospital and just do an 8-hour shift with all the timeouts and the coffee breaks and this and that with vacations. If you employ yourself, self-employment, as you know through your family, it can be a lot of hours. It never really ends. So yeah, you get calls on the weekend, that kind of thing. Well, the baby boomers are all getting old, right? And we're not replacing them. So people are going to need a lot of physical therapy. And so in that respect, it probably is improving. You know, at any one time, you can probably have your pick of 8 to 10 jobs, even in a small area like this. So yeah, it's in that respect, yeah, you'll always have a job. And overseas, they're looking for therapists everywhere. So you can, Europe is looking for them, even the Middle East. So yeah, it's pretty open as far as that's concerned. So what's happening now is that physical therapists will probably end up being direct contact. So right now we see people through a prescription from a doctor, right? Something like that, whereas probably within 3 to 5 years, you'll be able to see therapists off the street. So they'll be more like an optometrist in that respect, or a dentist. So this is true throughout the rest of the world, and in the United States, the military, for its since Vietnam. So if you're in the military and you have something going on with you, you see the physical therapist, they'll order the MRI, the x-ray, and what have you. They'll give you pain relievers, muscle relaxants, whatever. And if you need surgery, they'll refer you to an orthopedic surgeon. Other than that, you may never see that. That's what's coming in the future. It's more economical, the outcomes are better, and with a dearth of MDs, this can really take a lot of pressure off the doctor's office where everybody's waiting on top of one another. So I think that when Medicare approves this, and they probably will soon just because of financially, it's a better thing. It'll be a much more lucrative profession for people as they get older. And I think that, yeah, if you're a young person, it's not a bad way to go. Yeah, so depending on where you're working, you know, LA is more than Wichita, right? But if you're in California, you can probably start out as a beginning therapist. I'm guessing 65, 75,000, maybe 80. If you want to be self-employed and own a bunch of private offices or what have you, the sky's the limit. So I would say that most people probably prefer just working in an office or a hospital, and so they enjoy the freedom of not having their own business. But again, if you wanted to, I know some therapists that are millionaires. No, I don't happen to be one, but they are out there. I'm sure. With every job there is. Paperwork is always a negative. It's difficult sometimes to motivate people to do what they ought to do, and that's probably true in every field as well. Sometimes you have doctors who really aren't on top of their game and they're giving you wrong information. But other than that, it's not a lot of negatives. I think sometimes it can get repetitive if you let it. So ongoing education is really important. You have to do that anyway to maintain your license. But I think that you can also change, say if you're tired of geriatrics, get into sports or get into younger children, or become a trainer at a local school just to kind of break up your day. I'm getting into golf now, where I'm thinking of trying to improve people that have bad backs that can't golf anymore, and we can change their swing pattern so that they can continue to play and get something out of that. So it can be very varied. So I think it's up to you, like every profession. Rarely. I mean, you'd have to be pretty incompetent to get laid off or fired. There's such a need; they're hard to replace, and so in that respect, retention rates are probably higher than they should be. So I have a friend that works in Chicago, and he helps to design buildings for handicapped people, or huge buildings that need to be ADA compliant, Americans with Disability Act, right? So ramps, switches, doors, opening the correct way, the height of things. I have one guy that designs homes, and the first one he did, a man was in a wheelchair, and so all the appliances are on wheels, and they go up and down. His wife is a normal, active person, and so she likes it higher, and he presses a button, it all goes down to his level. Yeah, you can do anything like that. Car manufacturers use them quite frequently, again, for ergonomics. I have a friend in New Jersey who makes quite a good living going around to different corporations, showing them how to lower their workers' comp cases by making it safer on the workplace and teaching people how to do certain jobs in a better fashion. Maybe not so much lifting or lifting properly, that kind of thing. I know therapists that just do braces. They do quite well, and they combine with orthotists. And so almost anything that you can think that the human body is involved with, a therapist can be some kind of an assistant. So maybe 20%, maybe 25% paperwork, and the rest of my day basically with patients. I think if someone's wanting to get into it, talk to a lot of different therapists and check out different venues. You know, go to a rehab hospital, go to a regular general hospital so you can be on the different wards, orthopedic ward, even the psych ward. You know, there's often problems there. You can be in the neurological ward. There's an awful lot of stroke victims out there, bad cardiac, so you're dealing with that. I did an internship with just amputees outside of Pittsburgh, and this was shortly after the Vietnam War, the late 70s, and so we still had a lot of amputees that we did a lot of work with that way. Not as much anymore. Diabetes has been really improved upon, so you don't get those diabetic amputees as much. But any kind of venue that you can get to, get there and look and see if you really like this field, because it's a commitment of time and energy. And once you're in, you know, you're in for a penny in for a pound kind of a thing. So I would just make sure that you know what you're getting into.